Good evening. On this, the night of Halloween, I invite you to take a glimpse at this macabre world of monsters. Pocket monsters. Among these strange beings are even stranger entities meant to steal the soul from your body and the breath from your lungs. So get comfortable, ensure your doors are locked, as we go over some of the best spooky Pokemon cards. Alright, actually, that might be hard to understand in that take, but essentially I'm going over my favorite ghost Pokemon cards. So, here we go. Happy Halloween, everyone. I am Rank's trainer, and Halloween's one of my favorite holidays. I love all the spooky stuff, all the candy, all the movies and shows around it, and I definitely love the ghost-type Pokemon. Now, of course, most Pokemon, your Pikachus, Pachirisus, they're all cute and cuddly, but Pokemon has a bit of a mean streak with the ghosts that they have. And what I love about the sets Sun and Moon and Sword and Shield is that they actually give little details on the bottom of the card to tell you a bit more about the Pokemon, and some of them are really grim. So for this Halloween, we're going to be looking at the spookier Pokemon and look at some of my favorite ghost-type Pokemon cards from the last two sets. Quick disclaimer, I will only be going for cards that I have collected, so they're mainly going to be from Sun and Moon and Sword and Shield. If there's a ghost card that you love, feel free to leave it in the comments below. I would love to see it. But yeah, let's get started. At the bottom of my list for ghost Pokemon in these sets are going to be Sinistea and Polteageist. They're new to Sword and Shield, and they're essentially just a ghost that inhabited a leftover cup of tea. Not exactly frightening, but I do love the design. Seiya Sarada does the one from Sword and Shield, and it always has this nice sort of chalky look to it. And then they redid Polteageist in Darkness Ablaze, and she has that sort of Alice in Wonderland, like sort of crazed motif. And it's sort of cool to think of that ghost tea as like something maddening too, like it could make you go insane. Also, her flavor text for Polteageist: this species lives in an antique teapot. Most pots are forgeries, but on rare occasions an authentic work is found. I don't know why I'd care if the ghost inhabited a forgery or an authentic teacup, which is why it's so low on the list. But I do love the design. Next up is an evolution chain that's probably gonna make you wonder about the rest of the list, because this is a fan favorite. It's Gengar, and his other evolutions, de-evolutions, Ghastly and Haunter. We all know them. In these sets, they have cool designs, but they're mostly played out a little weaker, so they're not as spooky. If you start with Gengar from Sword and Shield, his flavor says, on the night of a full moon, if shadows move on their own and laugh, it must be Gengar's doing. He's a prankster. He's not crazy. Not spooky, really. Yeah, guess a bit. But then we look at Ghastly, and it's a bit worse. Born from gases, anyone would faint if engulfed by its gaseous body, which contains poison, burying the lead, but a floating ball of poisonous gas is scary. I wouldn't want to be caught by that. Now, as for why did I start with the third evolution and then go to the first, it's because Haunter from Sword and Shield is absolutely terrifying. First of all, it's done by I'm gonna butcher this. Hayaganosuke. I love this artist. It just has some flat colors sort of with really sharp different colors to it. But Haunter's flavor text reads, its tongue is made of gas. If licked, its victim starts shaking constantly until death eventually comes. Imagine being grabbed by an armless Pokemon and it licks you, and instead of feeling that solid, you just feel a gas pass over your body. And then you're going to die. You pretty much get seizures, shake up, and die. Remember, this is for kids. This is terrifying. That just goes to show how crazy these next ones are. Honestly, Pokemon holds no punches when it comes to ghost Pokemon. Next up, we have one of my favorite boys, Phantump. I always love these ghost grass types, but you always have to trade them in the game to get them to evolve. So I have like a really high level Phantump, nobody to evolve him with. So I just have him. But Phantump in the cards, specifically Cosmic Eclipse and Rebel Clash that I got here, he has a really cool design. Like, he's sort of childish, but still like ethereal. And it's his flavor text that gives him that extra bit of personality. In the Cosmic Eclipse one, his text is, "By imitating the voice of a child, it causes people to get hopelessly lost deep in the forest. It's trying to make friends with them." So it's cute. It's imitating the voice of a child. Scary. It just wants to make friends with them. But it does get them lost in the forest. That on its own would be just a little bit of fun mischief. But if we look at the Rebel Clash card, first of all, love the glow to this. Sui, I've mentioned before, is one of my favorite artists for doing these sort of cutesy Pokemon. But it's underscored by his flavor text. After a lost child perished in the forest, their spirit possessed a tree stump, causing the spirit's rebirth as this Pokemon. Think about that for a minute. Phantumps come from children dying in the forest. And then in Cosmic Eclipse, it says that they try to imitate the laughter of a child to get you to get lost in the forest. Phantumps come from children who died in the forest, and then their main objective is to go get other children and have them die in the forest, so that to make friends with them, but not with them, with the Phantump they're about to become. A ghost whose sole purpose is to find others to become a ghost along with them. And then if you were to go into the forest and see a handful of these, each of those are children, and you're about to become the next one. I didn't include his evolution, Trevenant, in here, because it's mostly just a tree that, like, protects the forest. Phantump's way spookier, and I like his art better, too. Coming up next, we have not the most inspired kind of Pokemon, but I still love him. It's Litwick and his evolutions. Litwick, if you don't know, is a candle. But not just a candle, it's a very sinister kind. Most of this artwork is done by people like Sekio and Mahou. Sekio has these really sort of dry colors to it, which always get me feeling kind of spooky. And then Mahou is sort of the opposite, with like these thick outlines of different colors, and it's just, I don't know, has a different shade to it. But again, what makes this Pokemon spooky really lies in its flavor text. On the Rebel Clash card of Litwick, it says, "The flame on its head keeps its body slightly warm." Not important. This Pokemon takes lost children by the hand to guide them to the spirit world. What? Okay, 2 facts about this Pokemon. 1, its fire keeps it slightly warm. And 2, it carries children to the afterlife. Terrifying. And that even gets worse with the second one I have here from Unified Minds. While shining a light and pretending to be a guide, it leeches off the life force of any who follow it. Which, again, gets me in that sort of spooky mood. Like, imagine you're lost. Maybe because you followed a Phantump. But when you think you found a way out, you see a little light. And that light starts to have you come with it. And you follow it, you feel yourself get weaker as the time goes on, until you realize you're not getting tired, you're getting your energy drained, and you've been going in circles. It's not leading you anywhere, it's just draining your energy. If anywhere, where it's leading you, like it says in the Rebel Clash card, is guiding you to the spirit world. Terrifying to be in that spot where you find out that the person you're following, who you think is going to save you, is the reason you're going to be dying. Then we get Lampent. Like, you start with a candle, you go to a chandelier. His art's pretty cool, but the text here as well. This Pokemon appears just before someone passes away, so it's feared as an emissary of death. Something spooky about not only you seeing something that means someone is dying soon, but what if it's coming for you? It gets even scarier when we look at the second Lampent I have here. I won't show his art quite yet, but let's just let the text fill the mood. The spirits it absorbs fuel its baleful fire. It hangs around hospitals waiting for people to pass on. Imagine being at a hospital and there's these chandeliers going all around. It means that people are close to death. But it's not the bright ones you should worry about. Those ones have already gotten their soul. It's the ones you can't quite see, the ones where their fire has died down a bit, that are looking for another soul to claim. And to underscore this crazy spooky motif is a freaking Seinfeld picture of Lampent doing stand-up. Like, it looks funny, but the person who saw this guy, Lampent, knows someone's gonna die. Maybe him. No thanks. Too spooky. We're starting to get into some of my favorite stories here, and this one goes with Duskull in his evolutions. I had to really go all around Sun and Moon for this, but I do love the sort of story it puts together. Duskull first, Ryoma Uratsuka. I love this artist because he has these thick white outlines on all his characters, and it really makes them stand out. This one in particular, he's looking for something. If you read his text, you understand that what it's doing is it doggedly pursues its prey wherever it goes. However, the chase is abandoned at sunrise. There's a glimmer of hope there. Just as soon as the sun rises, this thing will leave you alone. But of course, you still have to wait that long. And what's it going to do when it gets to you? I know Pokemon usually hang out with its evolution, so let's take a look at Dusknoir, which, by the way, is a holographic from Burning Shadows that I have that just is so spooky. He's reaching out to you. He has this body that looks like a face, but it's really the eyeball up top that he's looking from. And his flavor text reads, "It is said to take lost spirits into its pliant body and guide them home." Pliant meaning pliable, so it can bend and shape and take you into its body. Again, spooky, but it's taking lost spirits home. Maybe that's a good thing. Is it like a Ghostbuster? No. It's the reason we leave Dusclops to the end, despite being the second evolution in the chain, is because his flavor text reads, "Anyone who dares peer into its body to see its spectral ball of fire will have their spirit stolen away." Crazy. So going into the body of a Dusclops has your spirit taken away. Just think about that. Duskull is suddenly a bit more spooky now. He's chasing you all night. If you look into the spirit in his body, you're going to die. And Dusknoir, when he's putting you into his body, he's putting you with the flame. And he mentions that he's taking lost souls home, while Dusclops says it steals your spirit. So it's not necessarily a wayward soul, it's your soul, and he wants to return it to the afterlife. Just the fact that it's like this creepy looking ghoulish ghost, and after all that, it ends up being like something that's a bit comfortable, like it doesn't sound terrible, but then it is. You're gonna die. Alright, we are at my top 3 favorite ghost Pokemon chains in these last few sets, and we're looking at Drifloon. Drifloon and his evolution Drifblim. My favorite part about these guys is they have the happiest, most subtle sort of artwork. However, their story is the most messed up. This first one we have from Ultra Prism is from someone people probably know, even if they don't know her name, or his name, is Atsuko Ito. It's the person who does all the yarn Pokemon, knits them together. And they're always cute. It's a little yarn balloon guy in front of a felt forest. What's not to love? Well, if you read his flavor text, you see, if for some reason its body bursts, its soul spill out with a screaming sound. Okay, little yarn boy, very cute. If you pop him, the screams of 100 souls will cry out. Oh, but look at this one from Unified Minds. Here we have Ryoma again, with that heavy white outline. Oh, and it's just smiling, looking up at the rainbow. There's some clouds, but that's okay. Except when you read the text. Its round body is stuffed with souls and expands each time it leads someone away. Another Pokemon takes people away, not liking it, but its mass gets bigger. That means when you see one of these large in the wild, you're seeing the deaths of many other people. And when you pop it and the souls scream out, those are the souls of the last people who got spirited away by this cute little balloon guy. Now, the final one, it just doesn't match. It's Drifblim from Unified Minds. Drifblim's, of course, the evolved form, much bigger guy, and here we have him playing in a meadow with a smiling Raichu and a smiling Alolan Raichu, just having a grand old time. But the text reads, "There's a rumor that if you catch a Drifblim floating on the wind at dusk, you'll be carried away to the afterlife." I get that in this picture, it looks like they're at like noon, maybe early morning. But if you had someone where you're like, oh, if we're with this guy at 6, we're going to be taken to hell. It's like, yeah, no, that's spooky. Don't frolic with him. No. Right, at number 2, we have a pretty favorite ghost Pokemon. Some of you may have thought this would be number 1, but I do have a better one, I feel, for that. And at second place, we have Mimikyu. Mimikyu was a Pokemon introduced in Sun and Moon, and people loved his sort of aesthetic because it's some sort of ghostly type covered in this shawl that he made to look like Pikachu. At most of what we see, like in the show or in the game or whatever, there's something spooky underneath, and you're not supposed to see it. The Pokemon itself. And it's just sort of like a sad story of this Pokemon wants to look like Pikachu, why does it want to? And the cool thing is that these cards sort of give you a glimpse into that. First off, I'll go through the one from Darkness Ablaze. What I love about this card here is that you're immediately drawn to the eyes. You see the Pikachu after, once you stop scanning the face, but then you realize, sort of on the sides, its claws are out. This last thing you see is the first thing that's going to hit you. And it has that sort of spooky tone to it, but it also has some spooky text behind it as well. It wears a rag fashioned into a Pikachu costume in an effort to look less scary. Unfortunately, the costume only makes it creepier. Not the craziest thing, it is sort of weird. It's almost like a Leatherface situation. Like wearing a mask to sort of like cover yourself, but you're just coming off as creepier. It's almost like this thing doesn't exactly have the mind to be not creepy, and this is how it's manifesting. But it's mainly the next 2 cards that make me feel sort of weird about Mimikyu. This next one is from Team Up, and it's a fairy type, but he's of course Fairy Ghost. And again, we get a less subtle claw out, but the eyes are there, and like, it's sort of hard to see right away like what's going on. And even though it's bright out, it's striking because you've disturbed it from where it is. Now, the text of this one goes along with the next one we're going to talk about for a bit of extra scariness. Its actual appearance is unknown. A scholar who saw what was under the rag was overwhelmed by terror and died from the shock. So, of course, it's a scary thing. You see something that's covered by this Pikachu shawl. The first thought is, what's under there? What does it look like? To know that just looking at it could kill you gets that sort of idea that you want to see it, but it's going to kill you. It's just spooky, but not as spooky as when you link it with its description from Cosmic Eclipse. First of all, the card's really cool. It shows it's sort of like hiding behind a tree, it's shy, and there's a lot of shade to it, and it's that Hyoganosuke person who drew the Haunter before it. But this flavor text reads, although it's a quiet, lonely Pokemon, if you try to look at what's under its rag, it will become agitated and resist violently. Now this is sort of crazy. This Mimikyu is trying to not look creepy. It doesn't want to be, it doesn't want to scare people away. People who look under the shawl get so afraid they die. And whenever people try to look under it, it gets agitated and resists violently. I think because it knows that whoever looks at it is going to die, and it can't tell you that, so it just has to resist it. So it's this spirit that doesn't want to claim your soul, but if you look under it, you will, and you likely want to, and the only thing it can do is stop you from looking. It's just sort of chilling. And if I may get sort of like horror nerdy here for a minute, again, it's like Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Like Leatherface's thing is he's not so much going out and attacking, is that he's scared and he's protecting his home and his land. Well, that's Mimikyu. He's not going out to hurt you. He's trying to like protect himself. He doesn't want to be sort of like touched. And for my favorite set of ghost cards from Pokemon in the past few sets, probably not anyone's first guess, but I'm sure I'll get you, is Sandygast and Palossand. Yes, the Sun and Moon Pokemon, where it's just a sandcastle. It's a possessed sandcastle. On the face of it, that doesn't sound like much. However, when we look at the cards, it gets a lot more grim. And we do have 6 of them, so buckle up. We'll of course start out with Sandygast. The one made in Rebel Clash was done by Yuka Mori, the person who does all the plasticine, so that's always fun to see. And it paints this picture. If you build sand mounds when you're playing, destroy them before you go home, or they may get possessed and become Sandygast. So you don't knock over your sandcastle, it becomes a ghost. I don't know, it sounds like a way to just get you to clean up after yourself, but it gets darker. Here we have one from Burning Shadows, and just like the packs are known for, it has that dark sort of shade. You see the sun shining through its mouth, which is just otherworldly. But this text on Sandygast reads, "Born from a sand mound playfully built by a child, this Pokemon embodies the grudges of the departed." I mean, this one doesn't mention that you have to leave it behind, but you do from the other one. And yeah, it's not just a ghost, it's the grudges of the departed. And it is a child's sandcastle. It's just weird that it would be inhabited like that. Next up, I actually really like this art from Sun and Moon base set. This Sandygast, it's very bright. There's clouds in the sky, but it's like clear up top, and it's a nice scene. But you slowly start to realize that this Sandygast is just staring directly at you, staring into your soul with that sort of bottomless pit mouth that it has showing behind itself. And you can sort of see that it's sad, which doesn't play with the weather. But what also doesn't play is the description. It takes control of anyone who puts a hand in its mouth, and so it adds to the accumulation of its sand mound body. We've departed from, it has the grudges of the departed. That mouth, that I bet anyone is looking like, I wonder what it would be like to put my hand in there, because what is he going to do, eat it? Yes. He's going to absorb you and turn you into the sand. It's just another sandcastle, but it'd be cool to put your hand in that little mouth. And when you do that, you start to turn to sand. It becomes clear that this sand isn't just any other sand. It's the people before you who put their hand in its mouth. And that's terrifying. That's straight out of like The Mummy or something. But we still have 3 cards. His evolution, Palossand, which is bigger sandcastle, which right away, if it's a bigger sandcastle, probably killed more people. Spooky. We have this Palossand from Burning Shadows, and it's cool because you get to see a bit more of its power. Like, it has full control over its castle sort of arms, and it is like, it's more imposing. But when we look at its description, possessed people controlled by this Pokemon transformed its sand mound into a castle. As it evolved, its powers to curse grew even stronger. So that's crazy. It's not quite the way Sandygast is made, but what it is some sort of ghost that's separate to Palossand, and it possesses people to build him into a castle. Imagine being possessed into building something that's gonna eventually steal your soul. The Pikachu, Electric Mouse has fun with his friends? No. Ghost Pokemon going absolutely bonkers. But we have the next one from Rebel Clash, again showing off that action-packed artwork. His text reads, "Once it has whipped up a sandstorm to halt its opponents in their tracks, this terrifying Pokemon snatches away their vitality. Nice day at a beach. You're playing with your friends. And what happens is the sandcastle kicks up a sandstorm. You can't get away. All you notice is that your vitality is being snatched away. You're dying in this sandstorm. But what happens when you die to a Palisand? Well, we're back to some really cute artwork from Sun and Moon base set. Sun is shining. I think he's burping up a little bit of sand. But then his text reads, "Buried beneath the castle are masses of dried up bones from those whose vitality it has drained." Remember getting stuck in that sandstorm? Getting your vitality drained? You're losing your skin down to the bones, and you're going under the castle. Not only do we know it saps your vitality, its sand, while its sandy gas, is from people it's killed, but if you ever slay one of these, you get a chance to look under it, you will find the bones of all of its victims. That's serial killer stuff. Honestly, I had a fun time looking into these. I wouldn't in a million years put Sandygast as my top pick, but the card story just was amazing. But let me know what you think. What's your favorite Ghost Pokemon? If there are some cards that you've seen that weren't mentioned here, let me know below what they are. And hope you have a safe, fun Halloween. And try and find some time to be scared. And have a good time.